Good morning, George Hepworth here, Grover Park Consulting. Let's build Mike's mobile library. Today, we're going to learn how to filter the publications gallery using the controls in our filter bar at the top of the screen. There are two ways we can either search or filter items in the gallery. The first is the contains search, which is implemented with the input box on the upper left on the filter row. Whatever string of characters you type into that input box is used to search the publication title within all of the items in the gallery. We also have the three drop-downs across the top in our filtering row. The drop-downs select one of the genres, one of the media types, or one of the publishers to cumulatively filter the items in the gallery. Let's go ahead and look at all of how that works now. Okay, here we are in the development environment for our PowerApps applications. You can tell by the color, the orange header, that we are in the development version. We're looking at the gallery with all of the items, and in this particular SharePoint list at this point, we only have 27 titles. So this gallery is unfiltered. The filtering is accomplished, as we know, from the four controls at the top. The first on the left is the input box. It's a text input control. Whatever text is typed into the input box is used to do a contains search on all of the publication titles within our catalog. We have three drop-downs. Now, a drop-down is a particular type of control in the PowerApps application. They look a lot like combo boxes that we're familiar with in the Access world, although they are different and they have different properties. We can filter either on genre, publisher, or media type using these three drop-downs. The way this works is that the onSelect property of each of these three controls sets a filter. The name of the filter reflects the type of filtering that we're going to do here. So we're in the drop-down which lists all genres. We're going to set a variable called var genre filter, and it's going to be equal to the value of the selected option in that drop-down, and the same will be true of each of the other drop-downs. Set the variable to the value of whatever has been selected. So let's look at that in action. I will select literary fiction. When I do the select by clicking onto the item, that sets the variable and filters the gallery down to 13 titles in the literary fiction genre. The next filter is applied cumulatively to the one in front of it. So if we select Valentine books, our gallery is now filtered down to include only those books which are literary fiction and also published by Valentine. If we apply the third filter, you can see if I apply book, nothing changes because this is a book. However, if I select DVD, now there are no items in my gallery at this point which are literary fiction published by Valentine Books and also DVDs. If I select all publishers and all genres, now I return the two items which are DVDs. So that's how it works with the three drop-downs. Let's return this to all media types, which will remove all the filters and return all 27 titles. Now we can do a contains search. And I'm just going to type in 2 letters. Notice that it found Shelters of Stone. That title begins with SH. The SH is actually found here internally in that publication title. Again, a contains search. If I select back into the control, into the input box control, then I can remove the filter or the search, and it returns everything again. let's look at the coding which makes all of that happen. Okay, here we are in the onStart event in the section where we create our three collections that are used for the filters. There's the genres, media condition, and publisher. I'm just going to scroll back up here and we'll focus on the genres. The other two, the media condition, the publisher, and the media type all work the same way. We only need to look at one to understand how all three would work. The first step in creating our collection is to clear collect, which means empty the collection if there's anything in it now, and refill it, rebuild it with new items. The first item we place into it is our all selection. We create a publication genre ID of 0, a publication genre name of all genres, and we give it the sort order of 0. Now we have a collection with one record and these three fields. The next step is to go to the publications genre table and fill the rest of this collection with all of the items from that table. However, I don't necessarily need or want some of the columns that exist in that table. So I'm going to use the drop columns option to exclude those fields, the author, title, created, and modified, that I don't necessarily want to see in my collection. They're of no value. So we just exclude them out and simplify our lives. Once we have gone through these two steps, the genres collection consists of each of the records of a genre type plus the 0 ID, or the 0 publication genre ID, which allows me to select all genres. And the other, as I said, the other collections work exactly the same way. Returning now to our gallery one more time. We're filtering the publications collection by the genre, publisher, and media type. If the ID value is equal to the var genre filter, and the var genre, that's easy for me to say, right? If the var genre filter is 0, we will return all of the options. If var genre filter is set to any one of the existing IDs, it will be filtered against that ID value and limit the number of items that make it into our gallery on that basis. The search filter is applied directly against the publications, and it uses whatever is typed into that input box to filter on the contains search option. That's how this filtering is done here. You could use a combo box as opposed to a drop-down. There are pluses and minuses to both. I find the drop-down box somewhat simpler and therefore easier for me to implement, but a combo box would work just the same. And I believe we looked at this the other day, but a combo box includes the ability to search within the list of options. With the drop down, you have to scroll and pick. With the combo box, you can also add a search box on those. But I found these are simpler and prefer them. Okay, now I want to talk about the way those variables are set for our filters, because it gets a little bit more technical, and I'd like to cover that before we move on. Each of these drop-downs has an item source. Just like the gallery, the drop-down has its own item source. The source for the genres drop-down is this collection of genres, which if we run or play the app, you see we have our 0 choice, which is all genres, and then the other genres sorted on the sort order value, and the same is true for the other two dropdowns. So let's look then at what's behind those choices. If we look at the collection, we see that it is a record. Each of the items in that collection is a record. The ID corresponds to the publication genre ID. And there's our sort order. All of that looks pretty straightforward with one exception, and that is you'll notice that the ID is exposed here in this collection, which is a data type table, as ID, which is the default name for those fields in SharePoint lists. We have been calling it publication genre ID. So why do we have this mismatch? Actually, I'm not 100% sure of the reason for this disparity between what we see here with the ID and the fact that we're actually calling it publication genre ID. However, I've done some research. I think I have an explanation that makes sense. At least it's an explanation that allows me to continue moving forward with the development of the application, knowing that I'm getting the right answers, and that's what really matters. So rather than extend this particular video, I'm going to stop here, ask you to please hit the like button if you like what you've seen so far, subscribe to my channel so you'll see notices of future videos, and I'll come back in the next video and tackle the difference between the underlying ID and the alias ID that we see in some situations within PowerApps. Talk to you later.